With Digimon Time Stranger coming out today and having had access to the game early on multiple occasions at this point, you can check out my review if you're interested in that, which released yesterday, but otherwise, I figured what better way to celebrate the release than to go over 10 tips and tricks that I have for anybody that's just diving into the game. These are not tips and tricks solely allocated for the demo portion of the game like some of my previous guides, when that was the only thing that's public. This is stuff that's going to help you throughout the entire playthrough. We're going to be going over how you can level up more easily, who I think is the best starter to begin your journey with, how to cheese some bosses, how to take advantage of skill discs. I'll explain a little bit about talent, bond, and bonus stats, and a whole lot more. That being said, make sure to sit back, relax, subscribe for more monster taming and Digimon content, and let's dive in. Okay, so what better way to start a tips and tricks video than to talk about the starters? I made an entire video about this, but I've gotten more context now after playing the game. Now, overall, you can just choose whoever you want. If you are trying to get the most out of your Digimon early, though, the best starter to pick is Patamon. This is because there are several avenues to get Demi-Devimon within the first chapter of the game. Then you can find Bukamon in the next chapter, basically right after the Quagamon fight, and Tokomon, Patamon's pre-evolution, is in the third area you'll access, all still pretty early. You could technically devolve a Bukamon into Poyomon and then evolve it into Tokomon, but it's just a lot easier to get Gomamon by evolving Bukamon once. Also, a lot of iconic Digimon that you can get early on, like Armadillomon, Coronamon, Terriermon, and more, are directly linked to Tokomon, which is Patamon's pre-evolution. Just makes everything easier if you choose Patamon, but again, it's not a big deal either way. Speaking of which, let's talk a little bit about evolution. The evolution system in Digimon is non-linear, meaning that every Digimon can evolve into a wide array of different Digimon. Some Digimon evolve into the same Digimon, and on top of that, evolving and de-digivolving your Digimon will actually allow them to carry over a portion of bonus stats as outlined in the blue bracketed numbers next to the stat values. These bonus stats are also added on based on a Digimon's personality, which is a very complex topic. I have a video linked below that goes over all of that. Next tip has to do with talent and bond. There are two stats in particular that are important in Digimon Story Time Stranger, those being, of course, talent and bond. Your Digimon's talent will increase through de-digivolution and digivolution, as well as through loading other Digimon, which we will talk about in a bit. The higher your talent, the higher max level of your Digimon, and the more bonus stats that will be passed down. Your bond also plays a factor in this as well and increases when you battle with your Digimon, feed them in the Digifarm, and load them. Bond also increases through evolution. It's less important to know exactly how these mechanics work because, again, they're very complex, but just know that these two stats are really important for getting your Digimon stronger. Okay, let's step back a bit and cover a couple of simpler tips that you're going to want to definitely keep in mind. Firstly, know that enemies do respawn completely when you leave and reload an area, and since the game requires you to scan the Digimon to a certain percentage in order to get them for yourself, you can abuse this to get 200% on any Digimon that you can cause to respawn. Also, get your Digimon to 200% because it starts you off with 100 bonus HP, which is a lot, and it can be carried over to other Digimon through loading, and it'll also give it a head start to its talent stats. Speaking of which, the best way to gain XP and bonus stats fast is through the load enhancement feature, where you basically sacrifice Digimon in order to boost one. The amount of XP you get is based on the level of the loaded Digimon and their stage. This system is way stronger than loading from Cyber Sleuth, so make sure to convert Digimon at 200% for that free 100 HP, which doesn't fully get transferred over, but about half does when you load it. Then keep them in the box while you play through the game, which also gives them XP, making them stronger. Then when you're ready to load them, dump them all into a single Digimon and watch your stats go crazy. You can even Digivolve these Digimon as you level them up so that they're worth even more XP. Another pretty simple tip that you might already know if you watched my Chaosdramon video, however, the game does have a built-in games journalist mode, as we like to call it, aka the invincibility mode, where if you're playing in the lowest difficulty setting and lose a fight, you can switch to this mode for that fight in order to brute force whatever enemy you're up against. This can be particularly useful if you're just looking to get some extra EXP early, like using it to defeat Chaosdramon in the first area, who usually would require New Game Plus or some insane grinding. It's not the craziest thing in the world to do and is kind of cheesy, but hey, it's there. Okay, so in Digimon Story Time Stranger, you can now favorite Digimon, which prevents them from being loaded. This, alongside the evolution history chart, are two major quality of life improvements and should be used to protect your favorite Digimon from accidental loading. You just have to press the right analog stick in order to do this. Another pretty significant piece of information when it comes to not only getting Digimon stronger, but also getting new Digivolutions early in Digimon Story Time Stranger has to do with the agent skills that you'll get access to in the second chapter of the game. Agent skills basically act like a skill tree and give you access to a plethora of bonuses, and I have a whole video talking about them, but a few agent skills of note are those that will actually allow you to need less stat requirements for evolution. These skills are within the various personality tabs and will only affect Digimon with one of 4 of the personalities related to each section. Again, watch my personality guide for more info, but there are 4 of these stat requirement decreasing skills that you can apply in each category, each of which will knock down the requirements for Digivolution by 20%. This will only work if your Digimon's personality matches up with the target evolution Digimon. However, shifting personality within a quadrant is quite easy. This will make it so it's way easier for you to get certain Digimon that have very high stat requirements, so pay attention to those ones. Also, keep in mind, make sure you're actually spending your agent points so you actually do rank up, because this is what is going to determine whether or not you're eligible for Digivolution in the first place. Most champion Digimon require an agent rank of 3, Ultimates 5, etc. Something that's changed this time around is the way Digimon learn moves. In previous titles, you could basically inherit moves by leveling up as one Digimon, then de-digivolving it, then perhaps taking a different evolutionary branch and keeping those moves with you. However, this process has now been streamlined where your Digimon will now learn what's called an attachable move or a skill disc, which you can literally take off one Digimon once it's learned and just place it on another one. This can be really useful, especially when your Digimon might have a special fire move, let's say, that's superior in every way than its fire learned move, so you can simply just take it off and put it on a Digimon that might need that move for extra coverage. And finally, last but not least, the tip I'm leaving you off with is this is not a Pokemon game, don't expect it to play like one. So every time a new monster taming game releases, a lot of people immediately start comparing it to Pokemon, and if you go into Digimon Story Time Stranger expecting the battle system, the way level up works, or honestly if you expect the vast majority of its systems will be similar to Pokemon, then you're just gonna fail spectacularly. If you just try to brute force everything in the game without taking advantage of any of these systems, you're going to reach your Digimon's max level fast, since max levels again are increased as talent goes up, and you'll end up getting to a point where you feel like there's this huge difficulty wall that you can't pass, and it's just because you're not playing into the game's systems properly. Digimon story games are pretty unique in their combat. However, if you were to compare them to another monster taming franchise, you'd have a much better time comparing them to something like Shin Megami Tensei. Even just as a game as a whole, these are story-driven games that put real emphasis on the human characters as well as the monster characters, and if you're someone who doesn't like cutscenes and dialogue, you can skip them, but don't expect this to shy away from actually trying to be a JRPG. And there you go, guys. Those were 10 tips and tricks for Digimon Story Time Stranger. If any of the systems are a little bit confusing to you still, linked below, I have an entire playlist that goes over pretty much every major system in the game and simplifies it accordingly. I also have guides on where to find various Digimon early on, and I have a ton of plans for even more Digimon Story Time Stranger guides, breakdowns, an entire Let's Play series, and more. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're a fan of Digimon. This game is going to have DLC, so we can expect more updates from this game for the next year. I also cover monster taming games as a whole, so this is definitely your one-stop shop. Special thanks to our supporters, especially Candy Marunci, Tragsoft, Valorware, Nemo, and Wrathful Beast, and we'll see you next time. Peace.